Thank you everybody for joining. We've got a special Essex County Field Naturalist Club presentation tonight. My name is Corey Reno, the current club vice president. It's my pleasure to introduce tonight's special guest presenter, Steve Marks. I'm sure most people, if not everybody on this call, knows Steve, but just in case you don't, many know Steve as Steve the Snake Guy, but he's much more than that. Steve is a naturalist extraordinaire. He's been a very active member of the club for many, many years, and most recently was awarded the club's Outstanding Achievement Award. So very much deserved, Steve. Steve's contribution to the club and nature in general is just simply amazing. Steve is currently enjoying some time down south right now and traveling around Costa Rica, enjoying the nature there. So Steve will actually be presenting on his adventures in Costa Rica tonight. So after the presentation, we'll open it up to some questions. You can either raise your hand through Zoom or simply unmute yourself and speak up when you have questions, and we'll turn it over to Steve to answer those questions after. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome and turn the presentation over to Steve live from Costa Rica.
Wow. Well, thanks for all that wonderful intro, Corey. I'm blown away to have this opportunity. I can't believe that, in a remote place like this kind of thing is possible. And actually, from the spot that I'm staying in right now, it's not. I actually had to come here to the Monteverde Butterfly Gardens to get rock solid internet so that I could do this. So thanks to Brina and Monteverde Butterfly Gardens for allowing me to do that. Actually, behind me on the chalkboard is the life list for this gardens. So they have a very large life list of birds and amphibians and reptiles and all kinds of other stuff. Just quickly to speak to what Corey mentioned about me receiving an award from the club. I can't tell you how proud I am of this. I brought it to Costa Rica. This is a big, beautiful hunk of glass that weighs a ton, and I put it in my suitcase and brought it here because this club means the world to me. So I figured that I made this slide presentation up for my stepdaughter, and she wanted to see the adventures I was up to, and then I opened it up to my family, and then I thought, well, I've got a bigger family sitting back in Essex, so I figured I would open it up to you guys, and then tomorrow I'm actually giving this presentation again for a special group of dedicated naturalists in a crazy house up in Aurelia. So hopefully you guys enjoy this presentation. So with no further ado, I'm going to try and share my screen here and get started with my adventures so far. Costa Rica, and I will warn you, you'll want to turn your speakers up as loud as you can. There's a lot of really cool sounds in this video that are unfortunately low just because of the scenario. And if you go through, you'll see what I mean. I'm very fortunate to be able to spend time in many areas of Costa Rica. So I'll go through the diversity, both the ocean side and up in the mountains. This has been absolutely amazing, the time I've spent here so far. And where I am right now is in Monteverde, Costa Rica. And so that's up in the mountains. I'm at 1,380 meters right now. And if you look at Costa Rica on the whole, the size of the entire country is, no matter what way you define Southern Ontario, it's less than half the size of Southern Ontario. So while it's tiny, it still takes quite a bit to move around because there's mountains everywhere. So for example, to go from Monteverde here to San Jose, as the crow flies, is only about 80 kilometers, but it's a 3.5-hour drive. So you got to go around a bunch of mountains. You can't just straight line it. So in Monteverde, I've we've got a problem. There we go. In Monteverde, I'm staying at this cool little casita here, and this is a fully furnished place for $300 a month. So I figured I was gonna take advantage of that for my base, and this is where I've based my stay in Costa Rica. And right here in my yard, I've got amazing wildlife, mostly just birds. The northern emerald toucanet. This is taken with my phone without zoom, so I'm right up underneath the tree, and these birds are in the tree with me. These mots are absolutely spectacular, and they're a little more shy, so I'm not as good at getting good photos with my phone. So I did steal one off the internet so you can get a really good look. Obviously, the picture on the left is not mine, but everything else in this slideshow is taken with my phone. I'm not one to dwell on pictures much. This is a gray-headed chachalaca, and when I was a little boy, I remember asking my parents if birds really eat leaves, and my parents thought they did. So they told me, a little kid, that they did, because they didn't know any better. Well, I didn't know birds ate leaves until I got here. All the birds ate the leaves off my tree, because it's so dry right here in Monteverde right now that there's no source of water, very little water to be had. So leaves are a rich source of it. This is Luna. We became fast friends, and we're basically in love. She's a little drifter dog that lives next door but one to me. Not really sure. No one really knows, because all the dogs around here just wander free. I have to give a big shout out to Brina at Monteverde Butterfly Garden. Most of the trip that I'm going to show you has been because of Brina. She's a fantastic person. She's an entomologist, a crazy lady, as you can see by this picture. And she's a herpetologist as well. Her brain is bigger than Texas. She's an absolutely wonderful person. And she's a crazy biologist and a wonderful science translator, a teacher. And that's why Monteverde Butterfly Gardens is an absolutely wonderful place for her to be. She owns it and has for nearly a decade. And speaking of the butterfly gardens, well, I have to go through it while I'm here. So here's a little tour of the butterfly garden for you guys. These are absolutely spectacular animals, most of which I don't know what they are. This one is an owl butterfly. There's some gorgeous flowers throughout the entire place because, of course, the butterflies have to have something to eat. And some of them are just breathtakingly gorgeous. This one's actually just freshly pupated because, of course, that's part of being a butterfly garden. Zebra longwings. Very few of them I know the names. So here's a slow-mo video. I'm sneaking up on it. It's right there in the center of your screen. Don't take your eyes away. Good thing it's in slow-mo. That's the blue morpho. And everybody wants to see the blue morpho. It'd be nice to get a slow-mo video of one flying away from you, because they're huge and they fly like birds. They're incredible. They really are amazing butterflies. So naturally, I spent some time in the morpho house. This is just me with my phone on slow-mo in front of my face. But there's wildlife in Monteverde too, tons of it. In fact, I was reading about the Monteverde Cloud Forest Reserve, which is the very top of this mountain. And it turns out that half the species found in Costa Rica are found on this mountain. So Costa Rica is known for biodiversity in the world. This single mountain has got to be the king. This gorgeous little frog is the rufous-eyed brook frog, not the common red-eyed tree frog that everybody associates with Costa Rica. This guy's way smaller. Think about the size of our chorus frogs. This is Bothriechis lateralis, the side-striped palm pit viper. And like I was saying, the one on the right is an adult. The one on the left is a juvenile. The little dude is about maybe 40 or 50 centimeters long. The adult is nearly a meter long, and she's a female. This is the best picture you're ever going to get of one of these guys. This is the largest anole group in the world. They're called canopy anoles. This is an anole lizard. So most people are aware that anoles are pretty small lizards, generally speaking. Most of them are smaller than like even 20 centimeters in total length. But this guy is about 60 or 70 centimeters in total length. And he's fast asleep in the canopy. And unfortunately for me, he chose a particularly low spot for me to get a picture with my phone. Most of the time, they're never this low. And this one's called the jeweled canopy anole because it's particularly spectacular if you ever get a good look at it.
So this here is a fern. I'm talking about the stump behind me that looks like a tree. Look at it. It's a fern. And it's 5 meters high. And absolutely fantastic.
Ferns are some of the oldest plants in the world. And all this is new to me because I'm walking through this patch of forest and then I'm like, wait a minute, these aren't trees. What the hell's going on? These are ferns. Some of them are like 8 meters high. It's unbelievable. Plant diversity down here is just off the hook. Of course, so is the bird diversity. So there's one place in the entire area that has a hummingbird garden, and it's called Salvatierra. It's right near the top of the mountain. Here's some territoriality with some slow-mo video, just a few different species of hummingbirds. I think we counted about 6 different kinds, but we didn't hang around here for very long. We wanted to check the trail system out. But after I watched for just a few minutes, this dude showed up, and that caught my attention. I've never seen a purple hummingbird before. It turns out I'd seen lots of them. It's called the violet saberwing, and I've seen lots of them asleep at night because when you take a night hike here, you go into one of the wildlife refuges with a guide, and they're pretty good at spotting out sleeping birds, especially in the same spot night after night. They get to know where they roost. And a violet saberwing is a pretty common sight. However, it never looks like this, asleep at night in its little nest. This is the canopy walk, the hanging bridges out Salvatierra.
This is incredible.
And the metallic noises you heard weren't the bridge. Well, my footsteps at the end were. The other metallic noises are that 3-wattled bellbird. So I'll play the video again so you can listen for it. The metallic sounds are actually a bird. That's one. That's one. That's one.
This is incredible.
And that's as close as I've ever been to a howler monkey. Now, I muted this video because there was a tourist not too far away imitating howler monkey noises. He did not impress this guy. He just went for a nap right in front of us. So I really wanted a better look at a howler monkey. So luckily, I got one. But then I got several.
There's monkeys everywhere.
pay special attention to the bottom left corner of the screen. There's one monkey crawling around right there with a baby on its back. And I caught it right there. She's got a baby on her back. I managed to get a screen cap from the video. That's just with my phone. So from Monteverde, that magnificent creature I described named Brina is the passenger. The three in the back are all biology students. Maddie just arrived in Aurelia, Ontario. She's Australian. She's in the center of the rear seat. She just arrived at Scales Nature Park where she's interning there. To the left of her, the gentleman is Ollie, and he's a ornithologist from Michigan. And the young lady on the far right is Rachel, and she is a videographer and an ecologist and a phenomenal documentary maker who has dove in the Antarctic at the South Pole, doing documentaries of divers there. I mean, I'm with some pretty freaking amazing people on this trip. And so we go for some pretty freaking amazing adventures. And while we're driving down Costa Rican highway, there's this famous bridge that you can stop at the Rio Tarcoles, and you can see lots of very large American crocodiles. That's the largest American crocodile I've ever seen in the wild, and I've seen hundreds. It was easily 4 meters long and might be pushing 4.5. So we are driving. We've left Monteverde and we're going all the way down to the Osa Peninsula at the southern end of the country. To make that entire drive would be about 5.5 hours.
I love you.
Oh, you beautiful little sea snake.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love all of it. I can't believe it happened. Yeah.
So this is the yellow sea snake. They only occur in the Golfo Dolce, and that is the bay of the Pacific Ocean between the Osa Peninsula and the mainland. We went out because Brina knew some people, you see. Brina is magical.
She's got a white spot on her side, and I knew she was coming up because I could see it from under the water. She's really big.
He's not so big.
No, not so big at all.
She's behind him.
Yeah. But did they just go down?
I don't think so.
Oh.
So that arched back right there, and that characteristic circle in the water means he just went down. The little baby went down right in front of us, but we didn't get a tail fluke up. So what's unusual about this is humpbacks are already done for the season. The babies have already left the bay. So this is weird, but we were lucky enough to see one. We were mind-blowingly lucky enough to see these
Oh
though.
my gosh, she's coming right here, right here, right here, right here. Right here.
Oh,
Oh, the video unfortunately
you.
is sketchy. It's not playing smoothly. I'm sorry.
I have so many babies.
I have lots and lots of babies.
That's a problem. If I take, no. I'll try there. No, we're gonna have to skip that video altogether, I think. It's just not gonna work. My apologies. So what we got to see there, unfortunately you guys don't get to see there, were 3 green sea turtles in brackish water up a river. That never happens. Well, of course it does. It does happen at high tide. When the tide comes in and makes the river brackish water, sea turtles will come right in and eat the fresh seagrass that's in those waters. And the boat captain, the boat guide that we were with, he knew that. So he was hoping we would see one. He sees one he figures about 25% of the time that he goes up the river looking specifically for them. So we were lucky because we got to see 3 adult sea turtles, green sea turtles, swimming around in clear water. Unfortunately, the video is not working, so my apologies for that. This is a bromeliad boa you're staring at. This is a full-grown boa that is only about 70 centimeters long. And this is the second time I've been fortunate enough to see this species. I got to see it in Tortuguero on the East Coast in 2003. This is a very secretive little snake. And I also got to see this beautiful eyelash viper and this beautiful eyelash viper, which I got to add to my poke list. Now, poke lists are not for normal people. Poke lists are for retired biologists. And what poke lists are completely crazy. And so now that I'm completely crazy retired biologist, I've added the sea snake and these 2 beautiful eyelash vipers to my ever expanding poke list. These are spectacular. I never expected to see these. These are climbing salamanders. Now, I've heard about these. I never ever dreamed we'd get to see them. And the spot where I'm going to be spending the rest of my time here in Costa Rica is loaded with them. And they're lovely. So what are they? Well, they're Bolitoglossa, the web-footed salamanders. There are about 37 species here in Costa Rica. This one is the wood-colored climbing salamander, or wood-colored web-footed salamander. And the picture in the center is taken where I've shone the light in behind the leaf it's sleeping on. All 3 of these animals are asleep. It's nighttime. They sleep on large leaves at night. Aren't they adorable? And so I come along and I don't disturb them with the bright light in the eyes, but I do shine the light behind them so I can get that beautiful webbing to show on the shadow. It's fantastic. Their little webbed feet allow them to climb like this. Believe it or not, these salamanders are in the same family as the little redback salamander native to Ontario. They're lungless, and they belong to the family Plephodontidae. Oh, I'm hoping you've got your speakers up really loud, because in the background, those are giant toads calling. I don't know if you can hear that. My microphone is not that good. Here's a cute little leafhopper I found right on the, we weren't even on the trail 5 minutes and I found this guy. I thought, oh my goodness, this is gonna be magical. And it is, it's magical. These are the blunt-headed tree snake. And there's 2 individuals here. These are different individuals we found on different nights. You can see by looking at the one on the left though, it's really long and skinny. This animal is well over 1 meter long and yet is not as fat as your ring finger in any part of its body. And they specialize in eating frog eggs. Now, that's something that you don't hear very often. They specialize in eating frog eggs. So you've got to have really good populations of frogs in order to sustain populations of these animals. And there's lots of frogs here. This is a tink frog. They're called that because they have a metallic call. This is an adult, and that's my finger. So we're staying on the Osa Peninsula, but we're also staying on the other side of the Osa Peninsula in the house of a world famous entomologist. In fact, it's a pretty fancy house. It's a tree house that has a 3-story canopy top walkout deck. So you're at the canopy. It's ridiculous. We did a house swap with this scientist for the little casita that I'm staying in. We did a free house swap. So we got to stay here for 3 nights. And the wildlife around this place is just ridiculous. Of course, I was there with birders, and this end of our trip is pretty much a birding trip. But while everybody else is looking up, I'm looking down. This is a masked tree frog. It's actually fast asleep. It's the middle of the day, and she slept here all day. And I know that because I visited her at least 10 times. And she was always asleep on this leaf until just before dusk when she left and I couldn't find her anymore. But birding is what we were there for in this particular branch of our trip. And this was the target species. I got to see 10 of these magnificently huge, fiery, what are they called? Fiery-billed aracaris. Absolutely magnificent birds. A flock of 10 of them came to a naked tree in front of our wonderful 3-story walkout. And then right before we left, a flock of 20 came and we scored this digiscope shot just with a cell phone. These are just 2 of the dragonfly or damselfly species I've been able to identify, but the one on the left is the one that really excites me. Even though it's not as colorful as the one on the right, it's spectacular to watch in flight. This is called the lemon-tipped helicopter. I'm gonna play that video for you again because that is fantastic. They're ridiculous and they're huge. They're like 15, 18 centimeters long. Speaking of huge, this is Leptodactylus savagei. Now, those of you that have explored Costa Rica before might have recognized this frog as something different. Leptodactylus pentadactylus. That species is no longer found in Costa Rica. I mean, nothing's changed, but we now know that the frog that occurs in Costa Rica is actually different from the one that occurs in South America where Pentadactylus lives. So this one got escalated to a new species just in 2016, Leptodactylus savagei, the thin-toed giant frog. So this is a truly giant frog. They appear bigger than life when you find them in the forest. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, they can swallow our American bullfrog whole. In fact, they could probably take 2. They're huge. Out on the trail at night, I scored this gorgeous little Bothrops asper, the Terciopelo or fertilance. This is a baby. And when I say a baby, this animal is less than 35 centimeters long. And the way he's sitting there coiled, maybe a toonie might be hidden underneath him, but I'm not even sure. You'd probably see some of it. He's not very big. So this is where the rest of my trip is going to be talking about. The Osa Peninsula, a wonderful, magical place that I got luckily introduced to by Brina, to my friend Maddie, who was volunteering at this biological station on the Osa Peninsula. And that place is called Campanario Biological Station. And it is fantastic. Untouched forest, but for a few trails. And wildlife is literally everywhere. Now, when I say literally everywhere, these monkeys are capuchins. There's 30 of them in this troop that passed by me. Some of them were less than 3 meters from my face. And a bunch of them were on top of the roof of the porch I was standing under. The reason I was standing under the porch is because that's the only place in this area where I can get Wi-Fi, so that I was actually involved in a video call with a friend of mine in South Africa when these monkeys came through. And I didn't even bother to, stop the call to take pictures. I was showing my friend live these monkeys going through. And then afterwards, I just managed to get a couple of screen caps as I was doing that. It was ridiculous. Half of the monkeys were female and half of those were carrying babies. It was amazing. Speaking of amazing, Campanario is featured is right on the Pacific Ocean. They have beach. So there's rock pools, tidal pools full of life for me to explore. This is a sea slug. I was iNaturalisting stuff in the ocean, iNaturalisting stuff in the rainforest. Campanario is on its own little watershed, and so it's entirely possible that there are endemic species. There are 7 streams on this property, and those streams are just their own little watershed down to the Pacific Ocean. Believe it or not, this gorgeous little tree frog is common named the drab tree frog. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Now, speaking of frogs, that's what this guy eats. And I've been handling frogs, so he thought my flesh was a little, that smells pretty good. I'm gonna give this a shot. He found out it wasn't what he was looking for. So this is a brown spot belly. It's my first ever snake in the genus Coniophanies. This is a Baird's tapir, and this is an encounter that's not supposed to happen. People can't get close to tapirs in the wild. What the hell's going on? So the Baird's tapir is the largest of all tapir species. This is an animal that gets to 600 plus kilograms in size. It's the largest land animal in Central America and South America. It's the largest land animal in the entire southern portion of the Americas. And we had a couple of encounters. In fact, we had several. I hope these videos work. It's just with my phone. I don't want to scare her with my bright light. She's an adult female, about 350 kilograms. I got within about 3, maybe 4 meters from her. And she went right up the hill like it was nothing. That hill is a wall of land. And she went straight up it like it's nothing, eating the entire way. See, here in Campanario, they don't fear people because they're not hunted. Anywhere else, they're hunted to extinction for food. So here's another encounter. Now I am being careful not to shine my bright lights in her face, otherwise I'm not going to get any footage because I don't want to scare her and make her run away. But there's really not much that'll make her run away, I guess. And actually, if you're looking, if you're a keen biologist, you could see his little nuts as you were walking away. So that is a teenage-sized male. He's about 300 kilograms. Those are estimates, of course. Every time you turn around, there's something beautiful to look at. It doesn't matter if you're looking up, looking down, looking sideways. It really just doesn't. My stepdaughter was, when I was on a video chat with her, I told her that there's crabs absolutely everywhere and there's hermit crabs. And when I said hermit crabs, her eyes bugged out. She was blown away. So these are all the same species of crab, but they all chose different species of shells. So that's what hermit crabs are all about.
These crabs, these guys live on the beach, and they pretty much come out of these 4 holes, and you can see what they did since the tide went out. This dude, however, he's over here by himself. You can see what he did since the tide came out. He went a lot farther all by himself. You can't see these guys, they're in their holes, but you can see he went a long way all by himself and never even met up with these 4 guys over here. How sad for him.
He could have had friends. I think he had a missed opportunity. There's things with 8 legs all over the place. This is actually the same genus as a spider that looks very similar that you can find in Ojibwe back in Essex County. So near and dear to my heart to find this one. And this is harvestman spider or daddy longlegs type spider. And the thing is, not only is it beautiful to look at, it glows in the dark like a scorpion. And that's new to science. We're finding out now that all kinds of animals glow when you shine them with a black light. I remember showing scorpions on the screen before. during a presentation, and then mentioning all the other animals that you can now, it is known that you can shine with a black light, just a flashlight that has a black UV light in it. Scorpions of all types do this. A few different spiders do it. Geckos do it in some parts of the world. In our part of the world, your part of the world, Essex County, flying squirrels. So take a black light to Point Peely and shine it up in the trees at night. The belly hairs fluoresce like this. We're finding out that tons of animals have this fluorescence that you can shine with a black light, and it's really cool. Because after you shine them with a black light, you can go up and take a nice picture. Other than that, you can't find them. Speaking of gorgeous eight-legged creatures, this fantastic crab is on coral rock, and I'm lucky to get this picture because you can't get anywhere near them. They are super shy. Speaking of super shy, the electric blue morph of the morpho butterfly. But, well, you know, just like all of us, we lose our shyness with a little alcohol. This is starfruit. It's fallen from this starfruit tree, so it's fermenting, and it's really got her attention. So, you know, she's going to town on this fermenting fruit for quite a while, it seems. She really likes it. In fact, I figured it was time for a slow-mo video because she seems like she's quite comfortable with me being there now. Like, maybe she doesn't even mind a poke. Yep, she doesn't even mind. And I got a screen cap to show you how electric blue it is. And now she really doesn't care anymore. You can actually see the little mouthpiece going to town. She does not want to stop feeding. It's so good.
Okay, so now I'm videoing.
I'm trying to catch one in flight. There we go. I got one. Woohoo! That's hard to do. It really is when you're trying to do it with your phone.
Yes. The electric blue morph.
As is evidenced by my second attempt that failed. So the owl butterfly I got to see in the wild as well. And so in the wild, I'm going to the lengths of identifying what I can and using it on Naturalist. And iNaturalist, of course, is pretty helpful in identifying some of the stuff that I can't get down to species. But of course, I came for snakes. And this is a spectacular red-eyed tree snake. So you might think that a herpetologist that's familiar with red-eyed tree frogs might know about the red-eyed tree snake. But I've never heard of a red-eyed tree snake because this one's been called the tropical flat snake until recently, when someone thought, you know, that's a boring name for this gorgeous little snake. So red-eyed tree snake got escalated into its new name. And I was just elated. This is a 75 centimeter long colubrid snake that specializes in eating frogs and frog eggs, like a lot of colubrids around here. There are crabs everywhere. This is a red land crab in the rainforest. It was mass migration time. In other words, it's time for dove. These guys are back on the coral reef. This is one of the gorgeous oceanic crabs. I have no idea what kind. Speaking of the ocean, right on the beach, I'm having my morning coffee, and that's Maddie's foot next to a tapir track. Now, this is a track from a baby tapir. We have mama tracks with the baby. I wanted to show you the baby tracks of a tapir. That's its rear foot next to Maddie's foot. They've only got 3 toes on their rear foot. The foot right in front of that is its front foot, and it's got 4 toes on its front foot. And these gorgeous creatures, their closest relatives are horses and rhinoceros. So now you know where they get their size. A beautiful katydid. I never did get that one to species. A gorgeous brown basilisk. This one's juvenile. I know him very well because right outside the station, he was on this rock every day and on this wall sleeping every night. And I knew his pattern every single night. Speaking of on the wall, however, sleeping on the wall, mind you, however, in the daytime, these are greater sack-winged bats, and they're sleeping on the wall in the daytime. At least they attempted to. You see, these guys were actually flying around in the daytime. I watched them as they settled into the wall, and when I went up to take this picture of them, they decided that that was too close, and they took off to another roosting spot. They're flying around in the daytime. And this was every day I saw these guys flying around in the daytime, which I kind of found neat. I didn't know bats did that. There's another one of those tink frogs. Now, you remember the picture next to my massive finger. These are tiny little frogs. So you can imagine that one with a little difference might go unnoticed in a place that's got massive biodiversity. This tink frog, once I put it up on iNaturalist, has all the herpetologists thinking it's a new species. There is no tink frog with see-through skin. So this is a new species. It's the same genus, they all figure, but not the same species. Someone's got to come look at more frogs. Everywhere you turn, there's something gorgeous to look at. I figured this was called the orange daggerwing butterfly. So when I Googled orange daggerwing butterfly, I found out that this is called, sorry, I just got a massive katydid in my face. Wow. Wow, almost went right in my mouth. So this is the ruddy daggerwing butterfly and feeding on salt water on the beach. Speaking of unexpected or animals in unexpected places, this gorgeous moth that you can, I have to show this to people apparently. Some people that aren't very moth friendly or are not familiar with what this is here. These are the antennae of the moth. She's got them poised so that they're both coming to a point up here. These are the wings of the moth, and that's just a leg sticking out. So this moth is asleep on a leaf, underneath a leaf in the rainforest in the middle of the day. I found the same species on coral rock at the ocean shore. This moth gets around and seemingly doesn't mind going for a nap just about anywhere. Speaking of going for a nap just about anywhere, I'm very comfortable in Costa Rica. In fact, at the OSA, at Campanario, I've told everybody that I've come across, I've never felt more physically comfortable than this place. This was an unexpected reward. My mom bought me my first ever amphibian or reptile t-shirt when I was a teenager. She brought it home from a trip to Costa Rica and it featured one of these frogs. And I always wanted to see one. I never dreamed I would actually see one, and I got to see a couple. So this one is Dendrobates granulifera, or now Ufega granulifera, the granular dart frog. It's a poison dart frog. It's absolutely spectacular, as you can tell. And it actually looks like it has granulated skin. We were also lucky that night to find glass frogs. Now, I did not expect to find glass frogs at all. In fact, I did not expect to find any frogs because it hadn't rained a measurable rainfall on the OSA for nearly 4 months. So there's no way we're going to see glass frogs. Well, there's glass frogs. So how do we explain that, Mr. Herpetologist? Oh, I don't know. I really don't have a clue. I got nothing. Now I got to show you, because I'm a herpetologist. You see that little spike right there on his arm? That means he's a male. How cool is that? I just learned that myself. But you see, the thing is, with these gorgeous glass frogs, they only come out when it rains, and it hasn't rained in nearly 4 months. And here they are laying eggs. So what the hell? They know something we don't. About 3 hours later, it rained for 2 hours straight. 97 millimeters of rain in 2 hours. That's nearly 4 inches for you Americans. These tadpoles hatched. You can see the tadpoles in these eggs. They are laid that night, just a couple of hours before I took this picture. If that, they're freshly laid eggs. And they've got fully formed tadpoles in them, unlike any other egg that's ever laid. Only these frogs do this. It has to rain tonight because these babies have to get into water tonight or they're desiccated. So the rain did come about 2 hours after I took this picture. We didn't know it was going to rain, but the frogs did. We couldn't figure out why glass frogs were even out. We were rewarded with the sight of them. I was blown away to see my first ever glass frogs. This was what we were on the hunt for that night. Certainly not in a jar. This is my biggest target species on this entire trip. This is a section of a road-killed bushmaster, the largest pit viper in the Americas, the largest pit viper in the world, and the only egg-laying viper. This is a bushmaster, and it was found in the area where those glass frogs were on a tiny little road that's barely used by cars, run over by a car. So here I am back at Campanario, and this is a common black hawk. Now, I hate that name because I don't think there's a common hawk at all. They specialize in eating crabs. They hang out at the beach and eat nothing but crabs. That's unlike any hawk I've ever known. So that's uncommon to me. You birders and your dumb names. Speaking of hanging out at the beach, the coral rock formations at the beach are made by this critter. When they die, they become the rock. How cool is that? These are polyps of some sort. I never did get them down to species. Now this one you need the pointer to help you out with. This is Maddie's hand touching the ground because here is an ocelot track. You got a toe pad here, a toe pad here, a toe pad here. These are nice and visible, and this is the main paw pad right here. It's not a jaguar track. That would be bigger even if it was a young one. This is an ocelot track. And as soon as we found that ocelot track, we stood up and we found a crab sleeping in a tree at face height. We're in the middle of the rainforest, and yet there's crabs there. There's all kinds of things sleeping in the forest at night that you can spot with your flashlight. This is a sphinx moth caterpillar of some sort. And scorpions sleep in trees at night, and you can shine them blue with your black light. This is a thick-tailed scorpion. And hermit crabs sleep in trees at night. And of course, anoles, well, they're always in trees, or just about. This is the lichen anole. There's two here, the juvenile on the left and the adult on the right. Spectacular coloration on the adult. Absolutely impossible to see in that licheny, mossy tree that it's sitting on. It's ridiculous camouflage. This, speaking of ridiculously camouflaged anoles, this is the pug-nosed anole, and it's a young one, so it's not quite gotten all his licheny colors yet, but they're coming in, especially along the side. Never touch furry or pointy caterpillars is what I was told, and so I did not touch this guy. I got him down to the tussock moth family, but that's about it, or group. That's not family, way bigger than that. Never got it down to what type of caterpillar it is. But I saw lots of incredible caterpillars that I don't want to touch. Check that guy out. Thorns on top of hairs on top of thorns. I mean, it's crazy. Oh, and there's another one of those gorgeous Leptodactylus savagei. Orb weaver, don't know what kind. iNaturalists will tell me one day. The spider guys are figuring it out for me. I love iNaturalists for that. This snake was too shy, but we were lucky enough to spot it hiding underneath some roots. These are palm roots. And this is a rock wall in the middle of the rainforest. But I got a nicer shot of one that was out on the trail. This is the northern cat-eyed snake, Leptodyra, and this beautiful snake is a specialist on frogs and frog eggs like those other guys, but he'll also take rodents if he can get them. He'd probably take a bird too. Incredible sights everywhere you turn. Literally everywhere. This is a tamandua, the northern anteater. He just wandered through the camp.
I don't want to invade his cage. Look at him.
It's a tamandua. We've been joined by Rook. He's 3. Hi, Rook.
Sayonara, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Speaking of adorable animals, this is a humble anole. Again, with my finger for scale.
Huh?
This is the lady that owns Campanario. Her name is Nancy. She's 72 years old, and she wouldn't mind me telling you that. She has owned the station since 1971. She's all about conservation, and she's an absolute amazing person. She's also a bat expert, so this survey of the bat cave has been going on since she owned the place, and now she is the official caregiver to that cave, making sure too many tourists don't bother it. You see, this is one of those wonderful caves where thousands of animals hang out, pour out of that cave every night. So basically, we snuck up to this cave with Nancy, and we caught a few of the bats as they came out using mist nets. We checked them out for parasites. She's actually qualified to tell if there's too many or too few, so we can actually keep an ongoing count of the parasites that she sees, and also the different kinds of parasites that she sees. Plus, we do an estimate of the number that pour out. Funny enough, this cave is right on the shore of the ocean. And of course, it's dark, so I wasn't able to get footage of this. But at the ocean side, at high tide, at highest tide, the ocean actually plunges into the cave, pulls all of the bat guano and urine out of the cave, cleans it all out. So twice a month, this happens. The tide gets so high that occurs. And it really reeks. You see, when we visit the cave, it's at dusk. We see 3 species of bats. They're all mustached bats, and they pour out by the thousand. But those are only 3 of the species in the cave. There's 10 species of bats in the cave. They don't all pour out at dusk. Some of them have other lifestyles, like those sackling bats we talked about earlier. So we've caught them. Might as well take advantage of some slow-mo video letting them go, because bats are freaking awesome. I got 3 different good videos. This one's the best one. Rook is totally enthralled now. Hey, buddy, you like that? Look at that one. Look, watch. Wow. And don't forget, there's always a snake around if Steve the Snake Guy's in town. This is a gorgeous eyelash viper. The yellow phase eyelash viper is the one that everybody wants to see. Now, I've seen a few of them. I've been very lucky. But I touched this one, as you can see by the incriminating photograph on the left. And if you keep your eyes on the video, well, you know. I did it again. So there's the end of my presentation. It's not the end of my trip. I'm heading back to Campanario for 5 weeks. So I'm lucky to get this opportunity to present to you because I'm not going to have rock solid internet at Campanario. I wouldn't be able to show you this again from there. So I'm very lucky and fortunate enough to be able to share this with you guys thus far. So yeah, I'll take some questions. I don't know what possible questions you guys could dream up that I could answer, but I'll give it a shot. If you've got any questions, I'll give it a shot. But thanks for paying attention.
Thank you. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, just feel free to either unmute yourself or add it in the chat below.
And what I'll do, just because I can.
I have a question, Steve.
Oh, hi, Joanne. How are you?
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
That
fantastic.
green frog that was asleep on the leaf all day,
Yes.
what, is it not afraid of predators? It slept out in the open all day.
It depends on its camouflage, which the only reason I was able to spot it was because it was trail side. And I mean, by trail side, I mean the actual little path that went into that beautiful 3-story treehouse. So I was going down that path all the time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it. It was beautifully camouflaged in the sticks and leaves that it was sitting on. And it depends on that
Okay.
camouflage to sleep there the entire day. And that's how a lot of the forest animals depend on to sleep, right? It's camouflage. I mean, a lot of times you'll get tree frogs and things that'll sleep on bark and they'll blend right into it. This guy, actually, his colors blended into the same colors of the sticks and the leaves of the area he chose. So it worked out pretty well for him.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
There's a question here in the chat. What are accommodations like at Campagnaro?
They're quite primitive, but very comfortable. Like I say, at Campanario is the single most comfortable place I've ever been in my entire life. I can't imagine being anywhere else. I'm just going to let that video play for those still looking at the screen. This is virgin rainforest meeting the Pacific Ocean. It's diversity off the charts, and it's all untouched, uncharted, some of it. What's alarming is that around the Osa Peninsula, about 1/3 is national park. And that's cool. But since 1/3 is national park, the rest of the Osa is getting destroyed. Palm oil plantation. Palm oil plantation right up to the edge of the national park. Everywhere, just like in Canada, is crop farm. And that's the problem. There's just too much global demand for too many products. And Costa Rica is fantastic at putting its land aside, probably better than any other nation. But actual untouched rainforest, that is supremely rare today. There's probably less than 6% in Costa Rica. So for me to visit some without harming it in any way is a privilege. Anybody can come to Campanario once restrictions are better. Obviously, Costa Rica is starving for tourism, like every nation that depends on tourism is. And Costa Rica right now has its arms wide open. You can come and visit here without a COVID test, without a quarantine. You worry about all that when you go home. So Costa Rica is gambling because they're desperate. However, that said, there's not a lot of tourism here. Right now, it's on the rise. In Monteverde, the village, I'm used to seeing 300 and 400 people on the streets. Right now, it's now up to about 10 people on the streets. But when I got here a month ago or 2 months ago, it wasn't that high. It has risen. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Once tourism is open again, an adventure like this is possible. The best way to do it is to come to a place like Campanario and volunteer your effort. I pay for my food, but my lodging is free. So I pay $10 a day for my food, and I get to volunteer to help out this place and keep it protected, which is a wonderful, wonderful, feel-good activity, I assure you.
Incredible.
Steve, going back to Joanne's question about the frog, how do snakes find their prey? Do they not smell them sometimes?
Oh, they absolutely do. That's the thing. Depending on your camouflage, only helps for certain types of predators, doesn't it? Every aspect of your life is a risk in the wild. Every aspect of life is a risk for humans, except that we've protected ourselves in many, many ways with seatbelts and airbags and things. But we take a lot of risks in our lives. And so do frogs that got to get a night's sleep, or sorry, a day's sleep.
Great. Any other questions for Steve? Again, just feel free to unmute yourself or add it to the chat.
Steve, are you ever going to come back to Canada?
At this point, that's unknown. I'm staying in Costa Rica as long as I can.
Enjoy it for the rest of us.
Oh, I am. I absolutely am. I'm posting on Facebook like crazy with the hopes that I'm not driving people sad, I'm making people happy. Everybody that seems to be following along on Facebook is very happy that and they're telling me that I'm posting pictures and doing things like this presentation. The reception's been warm, so I'm just keeping on pumping out what I can, hoping that I'm putting a smile on someone's face, because we all need more smiles.
Definitely. Okay, there is a question from Kat in the chat. What do you do to volunteer? Or what do you volunteer to do? Sorry.
So you actually volunteer for whatever work is necessary to keep the station going. It could be sanding, painting, raking a trail, whatever is necessary to keep the station going. And usually that entails about 3 or 4 hours worth of quote unquote work. And then the rest of the time is yours to just bum around. It's pretty amazing arrangement, I gotta tell you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Somebody's asking, what do you have in the tanks behind you? That's Jennifer.
I'm at Monteverde Butterfly Gardens. I can't really give you too much of a tour because we don't have a whole lot of light here. Let me get up. Rook off me for a second. Hang on, buddy. We're going to take a tour. All right. So you're able to see my camera, yeah?
Not yet. Your camera's off, actually.
All right. How do I do that?
I can ask you here. It should ask you a question there.
Thank you. Okay, so we should be back on now. There we good?
We're good.
Okay, so I can't show you much because we don't have much light. What I can do with my laptop is show you one of these enclosures that has the butterfly chrysalis all hanging, waiting to morph out into beautiful butterflies. In this cage over here, there is a Costa Rican red-legged tarantula. There's Rook doing what he tells everybody not to do. And of course, there's not a lot of light here, so I can't really show you that animal. I'm going to try to get a light. Let's see. I was not prepared to do a tour. Bear with me, people. Can we see her?
Yeah, we can see it.
She is as big as your hand. She's bigger than your hand, in actual fact. And what's in that one, Rook? I don't see it either. So unfortunately, I'm not familiar with what's in every cage. So I'm not going to be able to interpret that for you, but there's all kinds of things from phasmids and roaches. Brina, you should check out BRYNA, Brina, cockroach on YouTube. If you search Brina cockroach on YouTube, you will personally find out how absolutely amazing this person is. That is a fact that cannot be denied. What I can show you is the amazing life list of birds, butterflies, wild ones, other invertebrates, and then reptiles and amphibians. There are 31 species on the garden's property and 23 species of mammals. Of interest here on the property, right before I got hooked up with you guys on Zoom tonight, I watched a gray fox climb down off the building where he sleeps every night. I watched him climb down the trees to the ground right before sunset. He's taken off for the evening. He sleeps on the butterfly garden roof every single night. It's absolutely amazing. You can see him because there's a glass panel in the roof he sleeps on. So you can see him up from underneath. It's wonderful.
Incredible. Okay. I've got a question in the chat. Do you have a plan after your 5 weeks in OSA?
No, I do not have a plan after my 5 weeks on the OSA.
Hello, Steve.
Hi.
I have 2 questions here for you. One, Ben wants to know, have you been swimming at the OSA? And if so, have you seen any sharks?
I have been swimming at the OSA, and that reminded me never to swim in the ocean. I'm not a good swimmer, so I had a mishap in the ocean, and I will not be going back into the ocean. I did not see any sharks at all. I have seen lots and lots of whales and dolphins out on the ocean, and I have seen sea turtles out on the ocean and on that river. I've seen lots of cool stuff on the ocean, but I have not, not yet. But I've seen some sharks before. A really good place that's, well, again, once travel restrictions have eased up, if you're ever down on the Florida Keys is a great spot to see a lot of really cool fish.
Thank you. And my other question for you, Steve, was, do you ever take pictures of the gray fox?
I do have a picture somewhere of him asleep on that glass panel. I'll see if I can find it and post it on Facebook.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah, no worries.
My favorite animal is a fox. So
They are really cool animals, aren't they?
yeah.
Thank you so much, Steve. Your Facebook stuff has been great. I've been living vicariously through you.
Thanks, buddy. Nice to see you and your kids.
Eyelash viper, pure white.
It's been a long time, Jay.
Yeah. And Benny just asked, what did the eyelash viper feel like?
Soft and wonderful.
My top girl is snakes because we have one.
Ben just got his first snake for his birthday in January, a ball python.
Well, excellent. So it felt a little like a ball python, except that it has gentle keels in its scale.
Little lines.
Ooh.
Thank you so much, Steve.
You're welcome, buddy.
Okay, say goodnight to Steve, boys.
Good night.
Does anybody else have any questions for Steve?
You can wave if you want, buddy. There. Wave. That's Rook.
Hi there.
Say hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Rick.
All the way from Canada.
Rook is a Canadian
Hi
citizen.
there.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm not seeing or hearing any more questions. So on behalf of the club, Steve, thank you very much. That was a fantastic presentation, very inspiring. I can't wait to get down to Costa Rica myself. And I
It's a
know
phenomenal place.
a lot of other people on here are giving the same kudos and thanking you for this presentation. So thank you very much for taking the time. Glad it worked out for us tonight. It's
Yeah, except for that one little glitch, it worked out pretty good.
we can edit that out. So
Oh, awesome.
Yes, thank you very much, Steve. Very, very good.
Well, hey, thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad this worked out.
take care and enjoy the rest of the time down there.
Thanks, guys. Bye, everybody. I love you all.
Thanks, everyone.